Welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler, live here in the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. Thanks for joining us. You know, we are marching ever closer to the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, and there's a lot of celebrations going on for that, including a celebration of the natural and cultural heritage of this land. And that's what we're going to be talking about because of a new exhibition at the Smithsonian called From These Lands. And we're going to be discussing that, finding out more about it actually right now, because we have the co-curator of that exhibition, Torben Rick, who's joining us right now. And thank you very much for being here today. I'm excited to talk about the exhibition. It sounds amazing, and we're going to definitely get into that. Before we do that, would you mind talking to us, just a little bit about, well, what you do there, because I know it's a lot more than just co-curator, and then also maybe telling us about how this exhibition came about.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk with everybody today. So I'm an archaeologist. I've worked at the Smithsonian's Natural History Museum for about 18 years. My title is curator of archaeology. For this exhibit, I was co-curator that kind of had to speak for the whole museum in some ways because we really drew on a large swath of our collections. But my day-to-day, I do archaeological field work. I work a lot with indigenous communities on collections and other issues. I work with students, and then of course we curate exhibits and work on broad education projects. One fun fact I'll tell everyone there is I got my PhD at the University of Oregon, and Oregon is near and dear to my heart. I love it out there. I haven't lived there in a long time, but I have a lot of friends there and go back to visit as often as possible.
Nice. Well, that's fantastic. So you were out here for that, and then of course, what we're talking about too with this exhibition, it's got examples from everywhere, including Oregon and Washington, and no, we'll get into those. But can you tell us, about this specific exhibition that you co-curated from these lands?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's the 250th anniversary of our nation, and the Smithsonian is doing a wide range of things at all of our different museums to kind of celebrate that and to bring people in to contemplate what that means. And at the Natural History Museum, one of the big things we're doing is this exhibit called From These Lands. And we're super excited about it because what we've done is pulled about 630 or so objects from our unparalleled collection of more than 148 million natural history and cultural heritage items. And we pulled these from across the 50 states and territories. Each state has several different items. We deliberately did not group them by state, though. We've kind of organized the whole unit by theme. And really, one of the reasons we did that is we wanted to emphasize the connections, how natural history really, transcends all of our political borders and shows great connections between the natural world and all of our states, and then also the connections between people and the natural world and how we are truly part of it. So this exhibit is really meant to draw people in and get them to think about all things natural history and some cultural heritage items as well.
How do you go about paring down that many different items into what you can just fit into this exhibition?
Yeah, that was our greatest challenge. And what we do is we try to democratize the process. So we had a call to everyone in the museum, staff, volunteers, students, postdocs, anyone who was there had an opportunity to submit an idea of what they'd like to see in the exhibit. And then we had a series of workshops where we brought people together and we talked about all the different items. We talked about the meaning of them. People kind of made a pitch. And then the core team, of which I was a part, there's 6 of us, we got together and over a series of weeks heavily debated what should be in the exhibit. We had a room literally full of just objects dotting from floor to ceiling where we debated those. And then through conversations with our various scientific departments and other staff, and then making sure we were drawing on each of the states and also showing a whole diversity of the collection from insects to plants to marine mammals to anthropology. That was kind of the process that led us to ultimately come to these over 600 objects that we have. But it took a lot of work and a lot of time. We've been working on this for about 3 years.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that would be so difficult, but also probably, fun to some extent too. Just revisiting, I would imagine, some of those different items and different things that you have there in all those collections.
Yeah, it was a tremendous amount of fun. As I said, I'm an archaeologist, but in this case, My co-curator Stuart's a paleontologist, and the two of us had a lot of fun because you kind of get to step out of your own little silo and talk to people in entomology or fishes or birds, whatever the case may be, and hear about the cool research they're doing, the cool collections that they have, and then be able to represent all those departments and tell that broad story to all of our visitors. We had a lot of fun making it. We think it's a super fun exhibit, and we can't wait for all of our visitors to explore it and give us feedback on what they think of it.
I can tell you already that I definitely want to go see it because it's right up my alley. But I do have to ask a question. So, when it comes to the Oregon and Washington selections, can you tell us, which ones you chose and what was maybe the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so the Oregon coast in particular is really well represented in the exhibit. There's about a dozen items scattered throughout the hall from Oregon. Three of the ones from Oregon are some of my very favorites. And those were actually pitched by people from throughout the museum. So one of them is of course, a Dungeness crab. Dungeness crab is something that's very familiar, I think, to people throughout Oregon. What we've done is we've dropped little sort of cookies around the exhibit for a scavenger hunt where people can find their state symbols. And the Dungeness crab was picked because it is one of Oregon's state crustacean. And this is a fun one because it's it's official state representative for Oregon. We've got it paired with a couple other state shells and things. But this is a neat one because in 2009, fourth grade students from West Lynn area proposed this and the state adopted it, and it's been your state crustacean ever since. So it's a kind of fun story to have tucked in the exhibit. And a lot of these are short, quick stories where we hope people just see the Dungeness crab, learn a little about it, and then be inspired to learn more. And then also see it paired with other maybe crustaceans or shellfish and think about biodiversity and the diverse natural resources we have all over our country.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I love having the extra story behind it because I did not realize that myself
Yeah,
about
we have
the.
other great. Do you want to hear about some of the other ones? We have
Yeah,
some.
please.
One of my favorites, and obviously this goes back to my U of O days, is we have a sea otter skull. And this sea otter skull is part of an exhibit, a little section of the exhibit we call Restoration and Recovery, that focuses on kelp forests. And so kelp forests are a really interesting part of the Oregon coast. They're regulated by sea otters who eat urchins that in turn eat the kelp. Otters haven't been on the Oregon coast since a permanent population anyway, since the early 1900s. They tried a reintroduction that failed. So we have a skull from 1875 paired there when otters were really rare, and we highlight the work of the Alaka Alliance, a group that involves Oregon Coast tribal members, conservation biologists, and others that's really working to bring back the sea otter to the Oregon coast. So we're super excited to highlight that story. And then also when I was at the U of O, we did a lot of work on sea otters.
We have actually, I know we've had the Alliance here on the show a few times to talk about what they're doing. Yeah, to bring the sea otter back to Oregon, which hopefully someday they're going to be able to release some out there. But that's awesome, and telling those stories. When it comes to the state of Washington, I know there's in particular something that we're going to talk about that they're showing.
Yeah, so the state of Washington, the neighbors to the north, we'd have there, a lot of states have state shells. Oregon has the hairy triton that we have in. Washington takes a little different route and has a state oyster, and that's Australurida, the Olympia oyster. It's a beautiful shell that's in the exhibit. You can see that beautiful purple rim, the grayish shell. And this, of course, is the only native oyster on the Pacific coast. So it was really important for us to highlight that. They're making a comeback. They're, of course, a crucial habitat for organisms throughout Oregon, Washington, and down into California. And then they're a really important food source. So we were excited to highlight this and then again throw out that whole concept around the state shellfish or state oyster in this case.
How important do you think it is, to have these connections and to show these connections that you're doing there when it comes to the natural history of the United States?
Yeah, I think it's fundamental. We really wanted to make an exhibit that was fun, but that also could do two really important things. One was to show connections between states, connections between different habitats and organisms, but also connections between people and nature. and showing how we're all part of this system. We are part of the natural world, not separate from it. And in an era of climate change, environmental challenges, I think that's more important than ever. We also wanted to highlight through our unparalleled collections the fact that in my view, natural history, it's everything. It's the birds that fly above us, it's the oysters that live in our bays, it's the sea otters that swim in our oceans, it's everything under the sun, and it's also us. And so we've tried to create ways that can draw people in and get them to either connect to their state, or we've got lots of people stories throughout. So highlighting the Alaka Alliance is one, or we're highlighting different indigenous communities, or we're highlighting another preservation organization or a scientist perhaps. And all of those are meant to bring our visitors in and get them to see themselves as a fundamental part of the natural world. And then just to recognize how beautiful it is, how lucky we are to live in such a diverse nation with such an unparalleled natural history, and then of course cultural heritage that's directly linked to that.
Amazing. Well, congratulations and thank you for doing all this work, you and your coworkers there and co-curators, and just in putting this all together. And for people out there who want to come and visit, I guess, how long is the exhibit going to be there for them to look at? And for anybody else who wants to find out information online as well, is there a place for them to go?
Yeah, so the exhibit is planned to be open through 2029, so you have some time.
Okay, good.
We hope everyone can get here, but it's a long way from Oregon out to DC, and we totally understand that. And it might not be possible for everyone to travel. So as you mentioned, we do have a really good online resource. So anyone can go to naturalhistory.si.edu. It's the primary website for the museum. And on that, there's a big banner for the exhibit From These Lands, which will take you to a whole bunch of online resources, including a story map, which is an interactive online exhibit that we've created. And there's even a map in there where you can go see actual pictures of some of the objects that we talked about today and others from Oregon and all over.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Torben, very much for joining us here and having time to talk about this. I really appreciate you sharing all of this information. It's exciting, and I will be at least checking out the website later on today. I don't think I can book a flight to DC yet, but we've got 3 years, so that gives me a little bit of time to figure that out. Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining us here on Fox 12 Now.
Thank you for having me.
And for everybody watching, we appreciate you live streaming as well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll be here until 4 p.m. today. So if there's breaking news that happens, we'll have that for you. But up next, we are going to talk about the natural side of things going along that theme. But unfortunately, this is about an invasive species that's been seen a little bit more. The emerald ash borer, found a couple other places here around the Portland area. So we're going to talk about that, what you need to know, how you can spot it, and let the Department of Fish and Wildlife people know where to go, how to handle it. So that's coming up next, and stick right there. We'll be right back after this break with more Fox 12 Now.